Half of humanity became dumber. Literally, IQ losses hundreds of millions of points. Crime rates soared by 600%. A hole the size of a continent gapes in the sky. And every year, 250,000 deaths from heart attacks. And if you were born before 90, congratulations. You were affected too. Because of one man, a genius, or perhaps the most dangerous inventor in history. Picture this, 1908, a bridge in Motor City, Detroit. A woman behind the wheel, that itself was an event, almost like a moon landing for those times. Naturally, her iron contraption stalls. A gentleman drives by who decides to show off his gallantry. Back then, men still knew how to be gallant, unlike now. In those glorious times, cars didn't start with a button, but with a special hellish handle, a hand crank. You had to kneel down like in a cheap melodrama and turn this starter. Click, the engine coughed and came to life. Crack, the handle breaks our Good Samaritan's jaw. Byron Carter, founder of an automobile company, dies from this chivalrous act. Probably the most tragic example that good deeds don't go unpunished. His friend, Henry Leland, founder of Cadillac, yes, that same luxury brand you know today, pounds his fist on the table and swears to end this problem. He hires engineer Charles Kettering to invent a car with an electric starter. Thus appears the Cadillac Model 30, the first car that didn't try to break your face when starting. But, as always, a new problem emerges. The new automobile roars like an enraged dragon. The engine knock is so loud it's like a demon has taken residence inside. Pour yourself some coffee, whiskey, or your favorite sedative, because now you'll learn how one engineer solved this problem in a way that poisoned 3 generations. Meet Thomas Midgley Jr., 27 years old, an engineer with burning eyes and a restless character. The type who'd now be called a proactive professional. His task? Make the engine run quieter. The problem was called detonation, when fuel exploded prematurely, creating chaotic pressure waves and that very knock. It's important to understand, Midgley wasn't a villain from a James Bond movie. He was a typical optimistic engineer of the Roaring Twenties era, believed in progress with a capital P, that science would make the world better. In the 20s, nobody really thought about long-term consequences. The goal was simple, make the engine more powerful, cheaper, and quieter. Midgley experimented with everything. Melted butter? Useless. Camphor? The effect was like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Ethyl alcohol worked, but it required so much that the car became an alcoholic, expensive and unprofitable. And then he tried tellurium. And oh yes, it worked. The engine purred like a satisfied cat. But there was a catch, the smell. Imagine a mixture of rotten eggs, skunk, and school chemistry lab, multiplied by 1,000. The smell embedded itself in skin forever. Mitchell's wife, apparently a lady with character, was so offended by this aroma that she issued her husband a ticket to the basement for 7 months. No right of appeal. Although, with its help, one can double fuel economy, wrote Midgley. I don't think humanity will tolerate this smell. Indeed, it won't. December 3rd, 1921. A date that should be declared a day of global technological mourning. Midgley found the perfect replacement, tetraethyl lead. One lead atom surrounded by organic molecules, cheap, effective, odorless, required only 1 part per 1,000. Call to Kettering. Can you imagine how much we'll earn? $200 million, maybe more. In modern money, $3 billion. For poison. With that money, you could buy a small island. Humanity had known about lead's dangers for 2,000 years. In the Roman Empire, lead was used everywhere. In plumbing, dishes, even as a wine sweetener. The result? Historians say Julius Caesar, known as a ladies' man, had only 2 children. Emperor Augustus, 1 daughter. Coincidence? Hardly. But at General Motors, they decided that ancestral experience was like advice from a mother-in-law. You can listen, but you should do things your own way. What happened next was pure black comedy. October 1924, at a factory in New Jersey, 5 workers die. 35 more get poisoned. Tremors, hallucinations, madness. The press calls the factory the House of Butterflies. Workers wave their arms, swatting away non-existent insects. General Motors management does what it does best, pretends nothing happened. Midgley was probably under colossal pressure. The bosses wanted proof of safety. And he did what would now be called crisis PR. He holds a press conference, pours tetraethyl lead on his hands, inhales its vapors for a full minute. Completely harmless. he declares to journalists, after which he disappears for several months to recover from severe lead poisoning in Florida. This man knew he was poisoning himself. He knew his workers were dying, but he continued lying because millions were at stake. Several states banned the new fuel, but would a giant corporation surrender? They find a more elegant solution. They pressure the government, which publishes studies about safety. They launch an aggressive advertising campaign. The marketing was brilliant. The additive was called not leaded gasoline, but ethyl. How sweet and harmless. Not a word about lead in the advertisements.
It's like calling a loan a financial opportunity.
1923, Indianapolis 500, America's most prestigious auto race. The first 3 places on ethyl gasoline. Demand explodes. By the 50s, millions of cars worldwide were burning lead. Even in the Soviet Union, they switched to this crap, and even painted it different colors for different fuel types. Literally multicolored, poisonous gasoline. The result? Global catastrophe. Studies showed more than half of the US population was exposed to lead in childhood. The cumulative loss in America alone, 824 million IQ points. Studies worldwide showed a similar picture. Up to 44% of children could have health problems due to lead. The whole world became dumber. Literally. Now it's clear where some internet comments come from. Meanwhile, one young scientist, Claire Patterson, just wanted to know Earth's age. But the calculations didn't add up. There was too much lead everywhere. Patterson built the world's first ultra-clean laboratory. He learned Earth's age, 4.5 billion years. But didn't stop there. He began studying modern pollution, oceans, Greenland glaciers. Everything showed one thing. Before the 20th century, the air was clean. And then, a sharp spike. Criminologists noticed a horrifying pattern. The US crime graph from the 70s to 90s was strikingly similar to the graph of lead in preschoolers' blood, with a 20-year shift. All those 80s and 90s movies about rampant crime, turns out they had a chemical basis. Lead mortality is estimated at 25 to 100 million people over a century. In the US alone, 250,000 deaths from heart disease annually. But this isn't the end of the story. Midgley continued inventing. New assignment: 20s refrigerators used toxic gases. Ammonia, methyl chloride, sulfur dioxide. People regularly died from leaks in their own homes. And again, Midgley finds the perfect solution. Freon. Non-toxic, non-flammable, stable. To be fair, Freon really did save thousands of lives. Refrigerators stopped being death traps. The problem was that nobody thought about the stratosphere. This man had a talent. Each of his safe inventions became a global catastrophe after a few decades. Decades later, it turned out, Freon rises to the stratosphere and destroys the ozone layer. The result? That very hole over Antarctica, the size of a continent, that scared us all as children. And here's the finale, the cherry on this toxic cake. 1940, Midgley contracts polio, becomes disabled. But the inventor's spirit isn't broken. He creates a mechanical system of pulleys and belts to lift himself from bed independently. History loves black irony. November 2nd, 1944, these pulleys get tangled around his neck. The invention meant to save him kills him. Karma, a true master of black humor. Thomas Midgley, the only person in history who nearly destroyed the planet twice. Historian John McNeill wrote, "He had more impact on Earth's atmosphere than any other single organism in the planet's entire history." The fight against lead stretched over decades. The US banned it in '72, Europe in 2000. Most countries worldwide followed this example by the early 2000s. Freon was dealt with faster thanks to the Montreal Protocol. The ozone layer is now recovering, one of humanity's rare environmental victories. The abandonment of leaded gasoline saves more than 1 million lives annually. But lead is still with us. Every third child in the world still has dangerous levels of lead in their blood. Midgley's story isn't a villain story, but a story of unforeseen consequences. He didn't strive for destruction. He simply did his job, relying on the knowledge of his time and pressure of circumstances. And that's the whole tragedy. We survived lead and Freon. And now, on the agenda, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, genetic engineering. What will explode from this in 50 years? We decide.